Hello, fellow classmates. My name is Sharon Zapolnik, and I live in Saline, Michigan, which is right outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I would like to share with you some things that I learned on my site visit. I visited St. Luke's Hospital in Maumee, Ohio, which is right outside of Toledo, Ohio. And I met with Barb Tipping, who is the manager of the medical records department there at the hospital. I would like to share with you some information that Barb shared with me about this particular hospital. This hospital was under merger, and I guess it still continues to be on hold as a merger with ProMedica Health Systems in Toledo. That merging was put on hold by the Federal Trade Commission because they were alleging that if they merge with ProMedica, it would put a monopoly on patient care services within the Toledo area. And that has in turn kind of put things on hold for this medical records department when it comes to needing more equipment. And I'll talk to you about scanning because this department uses a hybrid medical record, and so they scan, but they only have one scanner, and they're currently unable to get a second scanner as a backup because of the merger. It's just not being approved. And I talked to Barb about becoming totally electronic medical records, and that they're not currently moving forward with that, but she says obviously they will have to implement that because they need to implement that by 2015 in order to comply with meaningful use. Anyway, I was going to tell you, I just thought that was important for you to know because I think that affects their department in trying to be able to move forward in their department. This hospital is a 202-bed hospital. They offer emergency services, inpatient and outpatient surgeries, cardiology services, orthopedic services, oncology services. They do have a labor and delivery service. They have radiology along with other imaging services that they offer. They offer rehabilitation and wound care services there at the hospital. Their typical patient that they serve there at the hospital is elderly and on Medicare. And the average length of stay is a 4-day stay at this facility. As I said, they have a hybrid medical record there. So they are utilizing both paper and electronic records. Barb shared with me that every morning they collect all of they go to every floor and collect all of the discharge medical records from the day before. All of the surgeries from the outpatient surgical unit are collected every morning for the day before outpatient surgeries, and they collect all the records from the emergency department as well. Those records come to the department and they are logged in, and she says when the charts go over to scanning to be scanned, they are again logged in. And once the charts are scanned and uploaded to the computer, then the charts are packaged up, boxed up, logged out, sent for storage for a period of 3 months, and after 3 months they are shredded. So I sat down with someone as she did scanning of charts, and St. Luke's uses barcodes on their forms. ProMedica does not, and apparently now they're using a combination of their own forms and ProMedica forms. So the technician needs to go through the chart and add any headers and footers on ProMedica forms before she scans. And she also prepares the chart by removing any staples, paper clips, taping any torn pages. Once she does that, she puts the chart onto the scanner, scans it in. Once it's scanned in, she does a chart review, and she goes through each and every page of that patient chart, make sure that they're all scanned, readable, and she goes through and makes sure that the patient name is on every image that was scanned and that it has their medical record number. Once she's finished her chart review, then she uploads that chart into the computer, and it is then stored electronically as well. And as I mentioned, there's only one scanner in that particular department, which I asked her about, and that has to be a huge concern for them, because if that goes down, that's their lifeblood of trying to move these medical records through the department. But they currently only have one scanner, so that's, I'm sure, a problem for them. Besides sitting down with her, I sat down with a gal and I was able to observe her going through a chart and looking for chart deficiencies, and she would mark the deficiencies as she moved through the patient chart. Those deficiencies are then sent electronically to the clinician that needs to address the deficiencies. Then they can address those deficiencies remotely and send them back to the department. So then that way the clinician does not have to come to the medical records department to take care of that. And this particular person is also the trauma registrar for the hospital. They do not see really awful trauma cases there at that hospital. Anything that is very traumatic goes to another area hospital. She ends up registering slip and fall traumas, farm accident type traumas, motor vehicle traumas into the system. And what I learned from her is, as she goes through each one of those, she uses a ranking system. It's an AIS, the abbreviated injury scale, and it's a 1 to 6. It's numbered 1 to 6. One being a minor injury, 6 being an unsurvivable injury. And this scale represents the threat to life associated with the trauma, and it's not a representation or a measure of the severity of the trauma. She goes through the charts every 10th of the month for the month before, and she goes through those. And then she told me that quarterly she sends a report to the state of Ohio for the trauma registry. I found that very interesting. I was surprised she did not have any certification or any credentialing, but she has longevity within the department there. She's been there, I think, over 15 years was what she told me. So, and she seemed to be very competent in what she does there. I also asked Barb about encoders, and she said they do use them. Time kind of limited me with her, and I really wasn't able to sit with anybody or be able to observe any of that. We did talk about audits, and the big thing that she told me about audits was that they have recovery audit contractors that perform audits regularly at the federal level. So obviously they're going through and looking at all the Medicare charts and making sure that everything is appropriate there and there's no problems. If the recovery audit contractors find issues in the patient chart, they let the department know. That record is then sent back to the coder that originally took care of the chart. They go through, and she said that they make a notation whether they agree with what the auditor found, if they disagree, and if they agree, then they make the changes, and if they disagree, Barb said they simply just make a notation in the patient chart. Another thing that I asked her about was the transition to the ICD-10, and over the summer a number of the staff members went for 2-week training and some of the staff members went for a 3-day training, but that is an ongoing training for members of the staff there to prepare for implementation of the ICD-10. Well, I hope I've shared with you some things and that you've learned and that you can learn something from my site visit. And I look forward to looking at your videos and learning something that I don't know from your site visits. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.